This is Talking Law on Radio 97. If you missed anything on today's program or last week's or any time in the last 3 years, you can catch all of the programs on YouTube. Just go to Priala Legal, search for Priala. All of Despina's programs from, since 2021. We've been doing 2020. Have we been doing the show that long? You can check them all out 24 hours a day on YouTube. Just search for Priala Legal.
Thank you, Wayno. And Despina, over the weekend, you had a bit of a funny incident, which I'm sure you tended to on Monday morning. This poor lady was buying a home, but it seems like the real estate agent might have left her astray and you kind of had to clean up the mess. So can you talk us through what happened and I guess how for our listeners we can avoid such situation?
Exactly. So let's be clear. This is not a session to bag agents. Okay. So agents play their role. We have our role and we really need to work together. I see it like a bit of a symbiotic relationship really where they've got to do their part and we've got to do our part. We really should not be crossing over. Okay. And we can work quite well together if we do it that way. So we have a client in New South Wales. She's relocating to the Gold Coast. Fantastic. And she's selling a property in New South Wales to buy up here. Now, that's very common in this market. So a lot of people or most people we look after, they've got to sell to buy. So what does that really mean in a practical sense? So it means if you're relying on the sale of your property, so the money that comes in from the sale, to then use that money to go buy a property, it's pretty simple then that when you sign a contract to buy a property, it's got to be subject to your sale actually settling.
Yep.
Right? So that's pretty simple, pretty, logical. So if you sign a contract that is not subject to your sale going through, how are you going to fund the purchase? Where is the money coming from? And this all comes down to getting proper advice, having someone vet your contract so you're not taking on that ridiculous risk of signing up and to buy a property that's not subject to finance, that in your mind you go, oh, yeah, well, I'm waiting for my funds from the sale, but your contract doesn't say that. Okay, and then that means you're committed to buy. But what if your sale falls through? In this market, believe it or not, even when you sign an unconditional contract to sell your property, that buyer that's committed to buy can default. They can not settle, and it's not right, but it can happen. So what happened with this lady is she gave me a contract, not signed. She said, can you check it? Yes, happy to do so. It had a subject to sale. Fantastic. I knew that she was protected because the clause says it's subject to my sale going through. And if it doesn't go through, the critical part says I get to terminate. Yeah, walk away. No one sues me. Happy days. Okay. So we vetted it. We approved it. Now, over the weekend, the agent took it out and got her to sign a contract without it.
Took out the clause.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
That's right. So when we got the signed contract back on Monday morning, so the parties are bound, everybody signed up, we had a look straight away as we do and go, oh, what happened to that condition? And then one thing led to another, conversations, emails with the agent, with the client. And the short of it is, without giving too much away, of course, is that the agent took it out when they shouldn't have because they somehow got my client to agree, but that really wasn't the case. So it was an absolute mess.
And to clarify as well, this is an elderly woman?
Yes, an elderly woman. So whether you're 20 or whether you're 70, the issue is that, and more particularly with elderly people, because they are more vulnerable. And she had just lost her sister 2 weeks ago. So she's in a terrible period of grief and mourning. So she can't be taken advantage of. And in addition to that, people who are not lawyers are just that. They're not lawyers. They're lay people. They come to people like us to help them to get the proper advice up front. And I've heard many stories, but I trusted the agent. He wrote or she wrote the contract. They said it was okay. Look, they may think it's okay, but at the end of the day, they're not there to protect you. We are. We're the ones that need to protect your interest. We have the conversation with you. We understand where you're coming from, your background. Can you fund this? Can you not? Do you need your sale to go through? Do you not? and we tailor the contract to suit you. And this should not be happening. So, yeah.
And the other thing, of course, is that the agent is working for the seller.
Yeah, so typically agents are sellers' agents. And sure, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, rarely you come across a buyer's agent. And I don't really, whether that's a thing or not, I think it is, agents act for buyers, sure. But in this case, no, the seller's agent was acting for the seller.
Wants to get it done. Yeah.
Exactly. So you need to remember that when you're a buyer. It's not about agents wanting to be dishonest. I'm not saying that, but they're not lawyers. So if they say to you, don't worry, let's just take this clause out, or don't worry, let's just change something in the contract, it'll be okay. So when you hear those things, you need to say to yourself as a buyer, not really sure about this. You know what? I'm just going to send it to my lawyer again.
Check it
to
again.
Get it checked because I'm not really sure. And as I said to the agent in this scenario and my client, you are a lay person. You are not there, and you're not meant to understand the legal consequences and ramifications of taking out that condition. And the agent shouldn't be saying to the buyer, oh, well, look, it's okay, we'll just take it out in this case because you don't really need it. Well, it's not their call to make. It's not their decision. And you can't not afford these buyers the opportunity to make sure they get that legal advice again. So that was very wrong. Now, how did we fix this? Right? So a horror story, but there's a good outcome. Okay, yay. So it took us, it took us 3 days, but we did just last night got that contract varied. So we got it back to what it was originally in the first draft. We got the seller to agree to vary it so it now is subject to her sale. So she is now again protected thanks to us. But it took 3 days, a lot of emails, phone calls, a lot of mucking around, extra time and money. This should never have happened. So the message is have your contracts vetted, number one. Number two, don't let agents change contracts without them getting vetted again. Yeah, really critical.
Just very briefly, if you'd missed this or if this had been missed, what would have been the outcome then?
The outcome would have been that she would have had a contract. She bound to a contract that was not subject to a sale. And if her sale fell through, which it could, then she would have had no money to settle on this purchase and she would have been in default. And it was a very large deposit she had already paid and she would have lost that. Yep. And that is a terrible potential outcome for any person, but particularly an elderly and I will say vulnerable person, because when you get to a certain age bracket, you are in that pocket of being potentially vulnerable. So we don't want these things to happen. So always come and see us and get your contracts vetted at every stage if there's multiple changes along the way, because the outcome could be disastrous for you.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much again for sharing some advice on the show today, Despina. If anyone does want to get in touch with you directly about a legal question or some advice, where can they go?
So they can phone the office 55291 email info@prialalegal.com.au. They can reach out on the community Facebook page like Sue did last week. I'm always happy to. It might take me a bit of time to get the message because they don't always pop up on my phone, but I will get to it. I'm happy to do that. And then, this will be posted on YouTube as always by the weekend.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Despina and Wayne.
And we'll do it all again next week.
See you then, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you confused about legal jargon? Do you need legal advice but don't know where to turn? Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97. Despina, a leading lawyer with over 20 years of experience, will demystify the law and provide practical advice to help you navigate legal issues. Whether it's a family matter, a property dispute, or a business concern, Talking Law has got you covered. Don't miss out on this valuable resource. Tune in to Talking Law with Despina Priala every Thursday morning at 8:30 on Radio 97.